Have you ever heard of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch? No? Well, you should, because it's pretty damn insane. Also known as the Pacific Trash Vortex, it's essentially a great big heap of plastic, chemical sludge and other such nautical debris that has been trapped by the ever-swirling currents of the North Pacific Gyre. According to recent estimations, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch covers over 1.6 million square kilometers, covering over 8,000 metric tons of plastic, and if that's not already messed up enough, there's another one growing in the North Atlantic. You see, the point is, it's hard for us to garner any kind of perspective on the vast expanse of our oceans, and we may never know exactly what's lurking out there. Well, in that case, let me introduce you to SCP-455, and this one is pretty messed up. Hello internet, what's going on? And once again, welcome back to the most inquisitive channel on YouTube, Life's Biggest Questions. As per usual, I'll be your disembodied floating voice, Jack Finch, as today we curiously ask the question, what if SCP-455 was real? Roll the clip. For the curious amongst you, that clip was from Christopher Smith's mind-bending 2009 horror thriller, Triangle, and if you know anything about that movie, then you'll know that it involves a terrifying anomalous maze of a shipwreck, and as it's pretty fitting when we apply it to today's hypothetical spark of a thought. But let's not beat about the bush, because if I had to choose between being trapped in either that ship or SCP-455, I'm choosing the ship from Triangle any day. Trust me guys, 455 is messed up. But before we dive down deep into its anomalous implications, it's probably best that we first paint a terrifying picture as to what exactly is going on. As the record states, SCP-455 is a large cargo ship that is currently run aground just off of the southern coast of Chile. Most of its frame is underwater and badly damaged, with rust coating 85 to 90% of all of its surfaces. Its internal structure appears to be significantly larger than external dimensions, and that's fit to play a rather large part in the wider implications of this anomaly. But for now, we'll just accept the fact that it's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside, just like the TARDIS of Doctor Who fame, except this one wants to eat your flesh. Sorry, I've said too much already. One of this entity's most intriguing paradox is the fact that otherwise being a rusty hull of a shipwreck, SCP-455 is not flooded, despite large holes visible in and around its outer hull. And that bizarre material mystery is just the start of it. But before we dive into exactly what's waiting beneath 455's rusted metal shell, it's perhaps much more important that we preface this particular question with a more broader one. Could a shipwreck such as SCP-455 exist somewhere out there in our oceans without yet being found? And the terrifying truth of the matter is yes. Yes, it really could. In fact, a rough estimation by UNESCO puts more than 3 million shipwrecks out there on the ocean floor that have succumbed to the murky blue over our civilization's history. In fact, there are so many undiscovered shipwrecks beneath the waves that following the airline tragedy of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, rescue crews discovered 2 ancient shipwrecks. By accident, 175 warships and 783 submarines were lost to the deep blue sea, the majority of which have never been recovered. There is an estimated $60 billion in sunken treasure that is lay scattered around the world, waiting for some lucky deep sea diver at the bottom of the ocean. And whilst that sounds absolutely amazing, full of more adventure and excitement than the whole Uncharted video game series, in this specific case, SCP-455 is the last wreckage you'd ever want to stumble upon, because if you did, you're about to become much more involved than you'd ever have anticipated. SCP-455 is an anomalous thorn in the Foundation's side, and it is so incomprehensibly mind-bending that remains to be perhaps the least explored entity within the Foundation's containment. And containment in this case is a loose term, as there are no special containment procedures for this particular SCP, as no personnel are permitted to remain in close proximity to the entity for more than 5 minutes, and all physical contact with the structure is strictly forbidden. Any individuals who are found to break this order are to be quarantined, although the anomalous damage is more than likely too late to be reversed. So what's the big deal, eh? It's just a shipwreck, right? Alright, maybe it's a little bit creepy, but it can't be that bad, right? No. Wrong. Within the actual wreckage, the internal structure of SCP-455 appears to be a random assembly of rooms, halls, and structures that almost seem to function like the labyrinth of legend, ever shifting, almost corporeal in the sense that it has a mind of its own. Initially, when the Foundation was still stupid enough to try and explore the place, salvage teams reported entire rooms made out of human teeth, an engine with tendon strips for timing bouts, a large gym room with steel walls that were as pliant as taffy, and an endless series of twists and turning corridors that defied the spatial parameters of the ship's structure. The entity appears to exhibit strange temporal properties with time, too. To date, the Foundation has sent 3 mobile task force squads into SCP-455 to explore its structure, which from the outside should be a relatively straightforward job, as it exhibits no more than 5 floors even when viewed by diving teams from beneath. But in every exploration, the result has usually found each task force either being lost entirely or recovered after transmission has been lost entirely. In some cases, this has spanned over weeks. The leading prognosis is that SCP-455 is some kind of ancient living entity that is comprised of amorphous rust and metal that was never meant to be alive but thinks it is, and now takes the form of an unsuspecting shipwreck to lure in its victims. Wow. Now, obviously, the Foundation has wisened up to this fact and they're no longer willing to sacrifice personnel to explore it, and thankfully they'll be leaving the robots to do that. But if SCP-455 was handled by any other organization, the luckiest thing that they could ever hope for is for it to remain as one of the 97% unexplored shipwrecks lost to the depths of the ocean forever. You see, there is one thing that we appear to have left out in the anomalous cautionary tale of 455. Out of all the recovered test logs and nearly every mobile task force member that was lost to the endless winding metal and rust, they all found the same thing at the bottom of their terrifying descent. Food. At the point of starvation with rations depleted, well, of course, as any human being would, they ate that food, but only moments after eating the food offered by the anomalies of SCP-455. So, wow, now you know. If you just so happen to be a deep-sea diver or anyone otherwise interested in the recovery of ancient shipwrecks at the bottom of the ocean bed, then please, even if you're in pursuit of your fortune, leave SCP-455 well alone. You've been warned. Well, there we have it, our cautionary tale for what you should expect if you ever have the misfortune of stumbling upon the wreckage of SCP-455. Don't go inside, please. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for in today's video, but before we depart, let's first take a quick look at some of your more creative comments from over the past few days. First up, Jennifer Jarreau says, if you drink 2 5-hour energy drinks, do you get 10 hours of energy or just twice the energy for 5 hours? Nah, you get the runs. Well, on that note, I better skedaddle. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for in today's video. Cheers for sticking around all the way until the end. If you were a fan of this video or just Life's Biggest Questions in general, then please be a dear and hit that thumbs up button, as well as that subscribe button, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. As per usual, I've been your disembodied floating voice, Jack Finch. You've been watching Life's Biggest Questions, and until next time, you take it easy.